Hi guys, welcome back to my show, My Steps to Sobriety, on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stefan Neff. Today is another great day. It is an interview day, and I'm honored and blessed to have Linda Binns with me. She is coming from Portland, Oregon, straight to me here in New Zealand. And she is a strong supporter of the quieter voices out there. Today we are talking about people who normally don't make much noise about themselves because they are highly quiet people, highly intensive people who prefer to keep to themselves. And that is such a big part of the population out there. But because these folks are so sensitive, they typically don't speak out, and then we see all the flow-on effects of that. So Linda, thank you so much for coming onto the show today. I'm dead excited to explore that issue with you.
I'm delighted to be here, Stefan. Thanks for having me.
Ah, that's beautiful. And I love it how you pronounce the Stefan. It's actually exactly right. If you come from the north of Germany, then it's a Stefan, because everything is zzz. And
yes.
if you come from the south, where I come from, it's more
okay.
Unfortunately, that's of course also the sound you make when you're actually drunk. It's just so maybe there was already a sign of the times they're waiting for me. anyhow, Linda, it's great to have you on. And
thank you.
Once we have found our passion, our vision in life, there's typically a good reason why that is. Why do I do the work that I do now in trying to demystify and normalize talking about mental health and that? Because I've been a sufferer of alcoholism, and I had my fair share of PTSD and depression. So that is quite a good reason why I'm so infused in sharing my story and wanting to make this a better world for people who are in the same position than I have been some years ago. So what is your background? How you didn't just wake up when you were 10 and say, you know what, I become a coach for highly sensitive people.
Not at all, no. My background, it was very uninspiring as I was growing up. I knew I was different from everybody else around me, from my family. I knew people didn't understand me. And I was made to feel wrong for being the way I am. I was always told, you're too sensitive, get over it. Why can't you be more like so-and-so, stop thinking so much and things like that. And so early on, I learned to shut down. And I really didn't think I had much to offer in life. I thought I really wasn't capable of very much. Once I started working, it was a surprise to me when people started telling me what a great job I did and acknowledging me and promoting me. And I was terrified all the time because I thought any minute now they're going to find out that what they think they're seeing is not what's true, that I'm really a failure. And so I had imposter syndrome in a big way. But as I started to hear and experience what other people, it's like they were seeing something in me I didn't see in myself. And so it made me start to question all the things I'd been led to believe, that, there was something wrong with me. And so I started just coming out of my shell, I suppose, just a little bit. I was always very quiet. I was always very shy. I knew I was introverted. And I used to be terrified to speak up. I always tell people the story of at school, I studied languages, and in French, German, and Russian, I received A's in my exam. And in English, my native language, I received a C. And the reason was because as part of the exam, we had to have a group discussion. And I was so scared to say anything. I never said anything. And so I got a C because I didn't participate in that. But that's how painfully shy I was. But what I came to understand, once I started to understand that there is a trait, just like being an introvert or an extrovert, there is a trait called high sensitivity, which applies to about 20% of the population. And once I started learning about that and reading about it, it just suddenly made sense of everything in my life. And I realized that it wasn't that there was something wrong with me. I also realized that the people who were drawn to me tended to be other highly sensitive people too. And it just really made sense of everything. The reason I started going into coaching and working with energy and working with people is because I became so depleted. I had to learn how to understand my energy just to get through the day, how to energize myself, because I burned myself out. And if we talk about what it means to be highly sensitive, you'll understand how that happens. But I became very burned out, and I had to learn how to manage my energy. And as I learned these things, I just felt I have to share what I'm learning with other people, because I know there are other people like me who would benefit. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I agree with you. There are certain personality traits that just make us unique. I mean, we can't be 9 billion people on this world and we are all the same, outgoing and funny and everything. No, of course not. There will be a huge spread of mentalities, of the way we tick, the things we love, the people we love. So there is nothing wrong with these traits. It is just the deck of cards that was given to you, and you have to play that, and you have to learn what you can do with it. So absolutely true. From a man who has been in many not so nice situations and have met many people who similarly were suffering from a variety of things, there are, however, people who show the same sensitivity and traits, not because they have got a trait per se, but because they had to learn at a very early stage that if you open your mouth, regardless what you say, you get a hiding. So if you grew up in an alcoholic household, if you grew up in a household where there was a lot of domestic violence and family harm, etc., you, of course, would equally be, at least for the first few years, you would learn how to keep your mouth shut and how to become that person that hopefully does not attract attention and therefore things. So it's, of course, hard to see if you were to work with children and they're quiet to figure out what the hell is going on. Is that just an intrinsic thing, a trait, or is there actually something going on? So it's tricky. How did you do at school? So obviously, when you're a sensitive person and you keep to yourself, then one of the things that you do is you hit the books. You might actually enjoy learning, and you might enjoy reading and maybe poetry and maybe those kind of creative things. Was that something that struck out in your childhood?
Yes, I turned to books. I had my nose in a book all the time, and that was something I often got in trouble for because, why was I always reading? But the other thing was being in nature and being with animals. We had a dog, and I would often take the dog and just go for long walks. So just being by myself, I learned how to be by myself. I felt better when I was by myself, and reading and just being outside, with animals was the way to do that for me. It was the way of coping, I guess.
And how bizarre is that? Here you are, nearly saying that with a bit of a remorse or a bit of a funny negative tinge to the way this can be perceived. In reality, nowadays, that is something that we recommend people to do, to go out there, to be at nature, to be happy in their own company, something that many people out there can't even do. And
That's
here
right.
you are, you were already a specialist in that field at a
Yes.
very early stage. So if you look at
I
it from
was.
that angle, here you go.
Right. Yeah, I never thought of it that way, but you're absolutely right.
You were a trendsetter at a very
I
early
was.
stage.
I was ahead of my time.
Exactly.
Yes.
So only because something at the time did not fit with the kind of world that you were living in doesn't mean that it is wrong, doesn't mean that it
Right.
is negative. It is just something
Right.
that made you.
Right.
Yeah.
But when other people don't understand it, if it's not something other people do and they don't understand it, then they have to make you wrong. And if enough people tell you that, then the only conclusion you can come to is that, oh, well, it must be me. There must be something wrong with me because everybody else is not like this and everybody else is telling me there's something wrong with me. So that's the only conclusion I can come to.
And you don't need a lot of people to do that.
No, just the right people.
Correct, the right people. And it doesn't need to be big words. It can be just that little smirk of disgust when they look at your book or at whatever you do. That is enough, and that will ruminate and that will go around your body and will feel like physical pain.
And as highly sensitive people pick up on subtleties. So it could be a facial expression. It could be the raising of an eyebrow. It could be the tone of voice. You don't even need to say anything. It could just be the atmosphere in a room, you know. So yes, absolutely. As a highly sensitive person, I picked up on all of those things.
And in all fairness, that is something, again, I pride myself of nowadays, to have that openness in my senses, to pick up the vibes in a room, or to feel what is going on in a conversation that is getting heated. That is actually a very positive trait. Again, if you look at it in nowadays quite confused environments. And when I say confused, there is so much noise out there.
So much noise.
Isn't it? And noise, not just, we're not talking volume of decibels here. We are talking the constant bombardment with social media and with noise, literally, with stimuli of all kinds. Yes. And that can drive many people nuts without them actually knowing, isn't it?
Yes, and people, I think, have lost the ability to be quiet. In fact, it scares some people. They have to have noise around them all the time because the prospect of just being by themselves with their own thoughts is too terrifying for them. And I think that's a reason why people, well, first of all, have noise around them, but that could be a reason why people turn to addictions too. Is why I say my addiction, I didn't even think of it as an addiction, but it was to being busy. That was my thing. It was I always had to be busy, doing something. It was because I think what I used to feel was that was what I was supposed to do. That was the way to fit in. That was what was expected of me. And so I tried very hard to do that, to fit in. And that meant being busy all the time. And so I lost touch with that, what I knew as a child, that being quiet, reading books, being in nature. I did lose touch with that for a while.
When you say a while, how long did you try to mask that trait?
Oh, a lot of years. A lot of years, yes. A long time.
And what were your own ways of numbing your senses? You said keeping busy. Did you enjoy a glass of wine to give you that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm more of I've always enjoyed a glass of wine with dinner, but if I don't have it, that doesn't matter. It's more, it was like I couldn't sit still. I was always thinking about what I needed to do. And if I thought of something, then I'd have to get up and do it. I guess I became a master of personal growth, because once I realized that the beliefs and the conditioning that I had from growing up were not true, and that I could change some things about myself, then I went on a mission to fix myself and became immersed in personal growth studies. And that, again, I feel was some kind of addiction, because it's like, I'm going to fix myself. I'm going to find the answer out there. I'm going to find whatever it is, and I'm going to fix myself.
And good on you. There is, and again, use those traits, use them as your strength. Is it really so bad that you're reading and immersing yourself in self-help and actually learning lessons left, right, and center? I don't think so.
No, it's not bad. But the only thing I would say is, what is the energy behind it? So if the energy behind doing that is, there's something wrong with me and I'm going to fix myself, and it becomes,
I hear you,
an obsession rather than as a way, simply a way of growth and learning more about yourself. So the energy behind that is subtle, but it's very significant.
Mm-hmm. And whilst the outcome is probably something very positive, it is, I hear you very much. There is one thing to achieve something, but if the energy is bad, you actually don't end up celebrating what you have achieved.
Right.
You just keep shifting that energy, because the energy is still there. You shift that towards the next thing and the next thing and the next thing.
Yeah,
that's right.
It's like, I learned this. Oh, that wasn't it. Okay, let me learn this. No, that wasn't it either. Let me learn this.
Exactly.
It is a compulsion,
isn't it? Yeah. No, I can feel that. And when I look back at my life, I'm just wondering how introvert I am indeed, or how some part of me is indeed an introvert and a highly sensitive person. I certainly was like you, my head in the books. Maybe because there were reasons for that as well. So maybe it was not purely a trait, but more situational awareness, etc., that this was a safe place to be in, with the head in the books, kind of a thing.
Yes.
Oh dear. So you kept yourself busy, and then some busy. Now, whenever I did that in my life, the end result was quite predictable with hindsight. Work, boom,
crash.
And how many times I walked into a wall and then got either very sick. I mean, I had some colds in my life, bloody hell, that I was virtually delirious for a day or two. And that delirium had nothing to do with alcohol, and it had maybe something to do with a really bad infection. But I think it was also because I had not paid attention to nutrition whatsoever. And I was depleted from a nutritional point of view, as well as from a energy and inspirational point of view. And I came to a point where my body crashed. The viruses had just a field day with me. And the burnout, I mean, I wrote the chapter on burnout. I invented burnout. Okay, guys. So was that something that you experienced?
I did. I became very exhausted. But what I would find myself doing is I would take on things. I would say yes to things. In fact, one of my mantras has become, just because you can doesn't mean you should. So I would say yes to things. People would ask me if I would be involved with something, or people would ask for my help with something. I just said yes. It sounded good to me. Yes, I'll help. And then I would find myself stuck in a situation that didn't feel good and that was difficult to get out of. And the last time I did that, and I said yes to something, well, I actually did set up the parameters answers before going into this, I said, I will help up until this point, and then I'm going to step away because, that's as much as I can do. But when it got to that point, the other people involved said, oh, no, you can't go. We need you, all that kind of thing. And so I allowed myself, against my better judgment, to say, oh, okay, well, I will continue for a little bit longer. And that little bit longer lasted for about 6 years. And it was at that point that I said to myself, okay, no more. I have to listen to myself. I have to learn how to not take on things that aren't right. And that was really hard for me because I had to learn how to pause. So somebody asked me to do something or something was put in front of me. It was okay to say, let me think about that and I'll get back to you. And then I would sit with it and think about it and then realize, no, that's not really, I don't want to be involved with that, long term. Yes, it sounds exciting in the beginning, but that's not really a good fit for me. So learning how to do that was crucial because I could and did say yes to everything. And the thing I never wanted to do was let anybody else down, but I was constantly letting myself down.
Say no until your lips bleed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is, and that's again. That's I guess where the meme or the exaggeration of people pleaser comes in, because we want to make other people feel good, and we hate to be at the center of anything that could be considered confrontation. I mean, as a highly sensitive person, you feel the pain so much more. Therefore, you will do absolutely everything,
right,
even at great costs to yourself, to avoid that pain of confrontation, the pain of conflict, isn't it?
Yeah, it was also highly sensitive people are really good at taking on other people's pain. We kind of absorb it like a sponge, and it's something. I think what I've observed, not just in myself, but in others that I've worked with who have the trait, is that it's almost like we feel it's our duty to, so let me take that. I'll take that on for you, and I can deal with it and you don't have to, just to make the other person feel better. And then, we take it on and then we have to deal with it. Which what I had to learn was, that's not actually helping the other person either. You think it is, but it isn't. You can't fix something for somebody else.
Oh dear. You just described 10 years of my life, actually probably more. But see, I had some PTSD, and I thought that my hero complex, to use a negative word, that my hero complex was all about me having suffered trauma myself, and now with every fiber in my heart trying to make this world better and fighting battles that were not really mine.
Right.
I considered myself a really good doctor, but I was on a fast track to burn out in the field that I was practicing, because I put so much of my soul into it. And when you said like a sponge, you suck up the negative energy and the suffering and the bad things from someone else. Hell, do I recognize myself there?
I know. And the thing is, you can't want somebody's success and health and well-being more than they do. And that's what I used to do. I used to want it for them more than they did for themselves. And if they don't want it that badly themselves, then I couldn't help them as a coach or, anything else. And the same as a doctor, you can't make someone well if they don't want to be well. Really, they have to want it.
So true. And for alcoholism, that is the hallmark of alcoholism. 95% of people who are really, for most definitions, are alcoholics are strongly believing that there is nothing wrong with them. They don't need any help. They don't want any help, because they're actually still quite happy in the misery that they are numbing with the alcohol. And it is what it is. So yes, I hear you. I hear you. That applies for alcohol, but it also applies for so many other things, doesn't it?
Yes, yes, it really does.
Oh, so what was the catalyst for you to develop all that insight? That something must have occurred at some stage where you suddenly thought,
Well, I think it's evolved over a period of time and still evolving. So I would say the thing that set me on this path of learning about, so my specialty is energy and understanding our energy, and to know what energizes you, what drains you, how to make the most of the energy that you have, how to be even more productive by working with your energy rather than against it. So what set me on that path actually was I had a dog who became ill. He had a heart problem. And it was because of that I actually started on a journey to looking into natural health, and through that looking into energy. But it was all really in an attempt to be able to help him. But that was the sort of turning point that put me on this path, this journey that I've been on. And then there've been several significant stages throughout my life. Like wanting to start my own business. That happened because I was in a job and I was studying all these things, and I had this job that was just intolerable. And I had tried to leave it once, but they begged me to stay. So of course I stayed. And then it just became worse and worse. And in the end, I just had to leave. And it was at that point I thought, well, I'm going to try starting my own business, even though I had no idea how to start a business or what. As the introvert that I am, like, how am I going to go out and talk to people? But so that was another one. And then when I found out about the trait of high sensitivity, that was a big, just like light bulbs going off all over the place. I thought, oh, okay, this just makes sense of everything. But other than that, I feel like I'm a new person every day. I'm learning something new every day. I learn something new about myself. So every day I have breakthroughs every day, I think.
and how beautiful is that? I
Yes.
forever have been saying a day where I don't learn is a very sad day. And
Absolutely.
now, for most of my life, I was focusing on literal things that I learned, something in medicine, something in history, something along these lines. It's only in the last months, years. So really I guess 5 years. The first 2 years after recovery or in recovery were empty. There was no energy in me. There were no emotions in me. I had to reinvent myself because I had numbed my emotions for such a long time with alcohol. Now suddenly taking that away and having to learn a new way of life and a new way of feeling and dealing with these feelings, etc. The first 2 years were probably just confusing and empty and broken and like an automaton, like a zombie kind of a thing. And then from then on, suddenly I was on this spiritual and yeah, it was a journey. It was a path that I had no clue where it would lead me to. But it was a path that I realized that I was learning constantly and learning about myself and about what triggers me, what drives me, what I hate, what I like. And you make new discoveries every day about yourself. And then you try carefully some new coping mechanism and you suddenly think, wow, that works really well. And maybe let's do a bit more of that. And then something else crosses your path. And I am today a man that I could have not imagined me being like that even 2 years ago. So it's the same probably with you. Because of your sensitivity, you can take on new things. You are open. You're open to things that maybe other people would frown upon, or not frown, that's negative, because they don't understand something. It's much easier to laugh about it rather than actually try to understand it, or maybe even go along with it.
Yes.
So can I ask you a little bit about the energy healing side of things? It is from a strictly medical point of view, the skeptic in me wants to say, oh, what a mumbo jumbo. Yet in reality, everything is energy. Absolutely everything. Your cells work on energy fields, work on all these kind of things. We are electricity. The amount of electricity that is pumping through our nerves at any one moment is just amazing. And so these are energy fields that are raising through our body and then causing either emotions or a muscle to move, etc. So of course there is energy out there. We just don't look at it like that. We therefore, because we don't understand it so easily, therefore it's easy to put it away to the side. So how do you see energy? How does it play a role in you dealing with your clients?
I see it, well, as you said, everything is energy, but I see it, I'm looking at it more in terms of, I think we have this wonderful system within us, an emotional guidance system, if you like, that when you boil it down, it's really simple. When you feel good, your energy is higher, you make better decisions. You know, when you feel good, things are going well, you're on track. When you don't feel good, then something's off. So if you can learn that, okay, I get up this morning and I'm feeling really good and I'm going about my day. Oh, wait a minute, now I don't feel so good. What happened? If you can learn to pay attention to that, but we tend not to want to do that. It's like, oh, I'm angry and I shouldn't be angry. I should push that away, or let me take that out on somebody else, or something like that. But if you can learn to pause and say, okay, I'm feeling angry, or I'm feeling really sad right now. What happened? What shifted? What changed? Now, as a highly sensitive person, very often it's because I've just taken on something from somebody else. I've taken on someone else's anger or sadness. And if you're not aware that that can happen, and if you're not aware that it's not yours, then it's really, really hard to change it, to let it go. So when you feel good, your energy is up. When you don't feel good, your energy is down. And so the goal really, I think, for all of us is we want to feel better. And when we turn to some form of addiction, that's an attempt to, I'm not feeling good, to say, I'm not feeling good. I don't want to feel this way. So let me take something or do something that changes that. But of course, it's only temporary. And we're afraid to look at whatever the emotion is that we're feeling. I'm feeling angry. I can't look at that, you know.
Talking about energy, and I had to chuckle to myself that the energy just literally went out on your side. That is talk about burnout in a really serious way.
Yes, it's a perfect example right there.
Is it not? But I mean, it is, as a highly sensitive person, you take things to heart that maybe with hindsight, or if you step outside of yourself and look in, you actually have to say, do you really have to be so sensitive to that? So you were just saying when you came back on that, God, several years ago, it would have been mortifying for you because you described yourself as perfectionist.
Yes. I did used to be a perfectionist, and I expected anything I did had to go perfectly. Good luck with that. Right. Yeah, I mean, talk about setting yourself up for failure. Yes. And so it had this happened, if I'd been doing this a few years ago and that had happened, I would have felt devastated. I would have taken on responsibility for that and felt that, you know, it's all my fault. It's terrible. I've spoiled everything. You know, I really would have taken that to heart, and that could have affected me for several weeks, probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Same with me. And isn't it bizarre? Is it not bizarre how you take that on and how it nearly becomes a central core component that of yourself, that you're a failure?
Yes. Yes.
Because someone else had trouble in the power plant and somehow there was a fluctuation in the line. It is your problem.
It's my problem.
Exactly. Yeah. How bizarre is that?
Well, when you look back, when I look back and I know how I would have behaved in certain situations like this, and I can see how ridiculous it is. But at the time, it just felt so natural. It was just, that's what I had to do. I didn't know anything else. And I think I think it comes from this core belief of I'm not good enough. And so that affects everything. So you have to, everything must be my fault. I have to take responsibility for everything. It's crazy.
No, it is. It is. Yes, it is crazy. And yes, I recognize myself so many times in my past in your words. It is weird. And the direct flow-on effect, of course, then is that you feel like an imposter. And that's where, when you come up with something, when you actually become good in something, as you had outlined, you nearly feel bad about being good in something because you feel you don't deserve it.
Yes.
And this is, I mean, if the devil wanted to create a torture that's really, really, really effective, well, there is one of them. Okay. And again, I recognize myself again and again. The imposter syndrome. And that's exactly what it means for you guys out there. You think that you're not good enough for something that you either have achieved or have created, etc. Here I am hosting a podcast and a YouTube channel. And even now, frequently, I have got this little voice saying, who the hell are you to try to be an influencer? Who the hell are you to try to do X, Y? And I have to stop for a moment, look that voice in the face and say, bugger off, okay?
Yes.
Because I'm doing that for a damn good reason. I think I can offer something here. I can offer a forum where people can recognize, wow, they are not alone, and actually have a look here. If Stefan can do it, well, then I can do it. That kind of a thing. And that's why we do these kind of things. But that voice that you say, this kind of constant self-doubt, is I think a very much a trait of me. And the more I listen to you, the more I have to describe myself as a highly sensitive person, because so far I've ticked off absolutely everything, every hallmark that you have described. Yep, done. And that is a good thing, and that is not a bad thing. It's a good thing, actually, because I'm starting to realize why I've made certain decisions in my life that I have done.
Well, being highly sensitive can appear to be a very negative thing, and that's certainly how people think of it. And you hear the word sensitive, and you immediately think it's a negative word. But really, there are four main characteristics of highly sensitive people, as described by Dr. Elaine Aron, who literally wrote the book on highly sensitive people. One is depth of processing. So we process things very, very deeply. So we don't do superficial things. I always say, if you ask a highly sensitive person a question, or you ask them to do something, you better be interested in the result and in the answer. You must really want to hear the answer, because they're not going to just give you I have somebody, a friend of mine, I asked her to look at something over for me one time. And I was expecting just, a few comments here and there. And she gave me this like full report, really in depth. And it was so incredibly valuable. I had to laugh. And I said to her, oh, this is wonderful. It's such a great example of don't ask a highly sensitive person to do something if you're not really, and you really want to know not just the good stuff, but the bad stuff too. You have to want to know it all. So there's that depth of processing. It's like we have to go into something in depth. Then there's the second one is overstimulation. We easily get overstimulated by things. It could be by crowds, by noise, by smells, certain smells, by all the sensory input that's coming at us all the time. So it's easy to get overstimulated. The third one is emotional reactivity and empathy, really. So that ability we talked about earlier to pick up on people's emotions, but then very often absorb them and take them on as our own. And then the other one is subtleties, and that is to notice and pick up on subtleties that other people just don't see or don't pick up on at all. And all of those things, while they can be overwhelming, I've come to see them as a tremendous gift, because that's what enables me to be so good at what I do. I hear what's not being said. I pick up on energy and emotion and, all those things. So it enables me to be better at anything that I do. So if you can see it that way, that's how you see it as a strength, and you can embrace it and learn how to work with it rather than trying to fight against it.
And we have got a winner here. 4 out of 4. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And here you are. I guess if I'm now accepting the label of a highly sensitive person, which I think fits actually quite well, that doesn't mean to say that you're automatically quiet. Because sometimes you, of course, put masks up. A mask of bravado, a mask of the outgoing person. And some of us obviously can be very effective in the way we portray ourselves as a certain type of person. And in all fairness, this might actually be just as much a trait of you as well. Who says that you can only have one trait? Yes, there might be a dominant trait there, but there might be another person living in you. And
yes,
to have the two of them coinciding is beautiful. So if there's this outgoing person in you, the person who likes to make others laugh, the person who is there, who is the leader, the strong person out there, that's beautiful. Let this person thrive. But don't forget that there's the other person in you as well, who needs the different care, who needs the different time out, who needs the quiet moment when there is no stimulation.
And I have learned that I can be very extroverted in certain situations. So when you get me talking about this kind of topic, I can be quite extroverted. I could talk about this all day. Normally, I don't talk much. I'm very, very quiet. But you get me on the right topic, I could talk all day about it. So I can tap into those extrovert tendencies when I need them.
It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. But it's intriguing. So now that I'm thinking along these lines, I have to say I'm a very efficient shopper. I go to town, I get the belt, I get the whatever else I need, and I go. Now, that is, of course, because in town, you get overstimulated left, right, and center. And that's why I hate, for me to go shopping, to just wander through a shopping mall, you might as well make me eat glass or something like that. That's as pleasant as spending time in there. How intriguing. And if you then look at the classic meme of, imagine the blueprint of a shopping mall, and you see a man going in, you see the footsteps going there, going there, going there. And then a woman going in, it looks like Pac-Man, the old game. So if you would accept that this is actually a bit closer to the truth than just a joke, then you have to say how many men are actually highly sensitive. How many men hate to be overstimulated, but because we, as with our Y chromosome, we have to be strong, we have to be, etc. You just wonder how many men do suffer because of exactly that discrepancy.
Yes, and I think I think they've said that it's pretty equal, 50% women, 50% men are highly sensitive. And it has to be so much harder for a man, because as hard as it is for a woman to thrive being a highly sensitive person, it's much, much harder for a man, because there's no way you want to admit that you're highly sensitive. You know, a lot of people aren't ready to hear that. But I have to laugh, because as you're describing how you shop, that's how I shop. I hate to shop. I have to know exactly where I'm going, what I'm getting. I'm in, I'm out, I'm home. I'm done.
But see, I have wrapped that up in different belief systems. So for me, I want to be highly efficient. So for me, I don't want to waste time. So I've put a positive label onto it and a positive swing onto it to avoid the pain of having to admit that maybe I don't like crowds. For me to be at a party nowadays is punishment, because
it's excruciating.
Is it not?
Yes.
And I guess that's the reason that I always preloaded with a drink, and then I was suddenly calm, numb, and I could talk shit for hours. And but now to actually have to make small talk for an hour or two, wow, please not. Please not.
I know. Well, again, it's that highly sensitive nature. We don't do small talk. Let's have a real conversation. Let me learn something real about you. And that's hard for. It can come across as very intimidating to people who are not highly sensitive. And I know I've been described as intimidating before, which made me really laugh, because I used to think, well, there's nobody less intimidating than me. But I understand what they were saying now. It's like when you are quiet and when you have a conversation, you want to have a real conversation, that can be intimidating for many people, because they feel judged, or they feel you're critical of them in some way.
Interesting.
So it's very interesting, but
Oh wow. So okay, cool. So we have explored the features of being highly sensitive, and we have already from the word go said that this is actually a pretty cool superpower, and that we need to learn how to harness it and how to use it to our strength. But people don't come to you and say, hey, I've got a superpower. Come on, let's develop that. They come to you with problems. So what are some of the problems that people really suffer from? And then how do you turn that around? How do you show them the mirror in front of their face and hold it there and say, okay, let's rephrase the questions. What do you do?
Well, some of the problems people come with are exactly the kinds of things we've been talking about. Imposter syndrome, anxiety, overwhelm. A lot of people come, I often say what people think is the problem is never the problem. So people will often come because they want to learn how to be more efficient. They think, I'm not being efficient enough with my time. I'm not accomplishing what I want because I don't manage my time very well. And then when we start to look at what that means and what they're doing, it's because they're living totally out of alignment with who they are. Yeah. So, of course, they're not getting things done because it's not a fit, you know. So it's really helping them to see themselves and helping them to see what's really going on in their lives. And I start. Well, first of all, I start by saying, okay, where are you now and where do you want to be? And, you know, what do you think it's going to take for you to get there? What do you think is holding you back? And, you know, they'll usually say something. They've usually done a lot of work. They've they've been like me on the personal growth journey, but they've been trying to fix themselves. So it's about helping them see that it's not that there's something wrong with you. We just have to find out who you are. Well, what does it mean? What does energize you? What does drain you? What is a fit for you? What's important to you? So it's a lot of just exploring what that means, and what do you get excited about? So if you're doing this particular job and you're not feeling fulfilled anymore, why did you start that job in the first place? What drew you to it? So it's tapping into their energy, their being, and finding out who they really are. And for each person, it's going to be different. The way we do that is going to be different because people learn in different ways. They have different experiences. But some of the typical things I try to do right away is, okay, let's dive in there and get to some of those fears. What are you most afraid of? What do you feel ashamed about? What do you feel guilty about? Let's dive in there and dig those things out, but also helping people see that a lot of the pain and emotions that you're feeling may not actually be yours. A lot of people take on the pain of their families, and they've been trying to work through their own stuff and not feeling that they're making much progress, when what they're really doing is still trying to fix everything for everybody else in their family. That won't work. So it's diving into all of that messiness, but doing it in such a supportive and positive way so that they feel supported all the way through it, that they feel that there's somebody always there. One of my best stories I heard from one of my clients was, she said to me one time, something came up for her and she was in a panic about it, and she said, I want to call Linda, but she knew I was on a plane somewhere and she couldn't call me. So then she said, well, what would Linda tell me to do? And then she just did it. So that's what I always tell people. You don't need me to tell you. It's already in there. I'm just helping you to get it out, So I don't know if that answered your question. But
Oh, very much so. Very, very much so. It is bizarre, isn't it? It is how we work and what sometimes needs to be done. And funnily enough, if I was now to rephrase a little bit what you have just said, that is essentially in the system of the 12 steps, that's step 4. You take a real good inventory of what is going on inside of you, all the resentment, anger, fear. Try to figure out what the hell is going on. What exactly are you feeling? Why are you angry? Because Joe Blocks did that. Okay, cool. So what did he do? He did that. Okay, and how did it make you feel? And so on. So you actually literally make lists and write things down. So very similar to what you're doing.
Interesting.
And if you guys are looking out there at various recovery systems, it is virtually always the same steps that need to be done. You need to look why you're doing certain things, why you're feeling certain things, and need to explore. And that is a journey. And if you say, the 12 steps don't work, or the smart recovery doesn't work, or I've worked with that life coach and that was a heap of shit, that just shows that you have tried one way of looking at your personal problems and your emotions, and you might either not have been ready to do that work, or you felt so much pain looking at the true you that you rather gave up on that, because we are very good. We don't want pain. We are very good in avoiding pain. And if actually, even if exploring something which is painful would lead to you coming out such a different person the other end, the pain might be too much at that moment in time. So there are many reasons why you might actually fail in such a journey. But it astounds me again and again when I speak to people like you, Linda, who want to help others, and how you go about helping others. there are great similarities out there.
Mm.
But of course, not everyone gels with everyone.
No.
So you guys out there, you need to find your own path. You need to find your own way to explore what is driving you and to explore the negative aspects of it. Because we are not all positive things. Oh, for Christ's sake, I've got so many bad traits in me. It's no longer funny. And the same applies to everyone. The Queen, the Pope, you name it, any kind of your heroes or the people that you look up to, your peers, rest assured, they all are flabby when they're naked, and they all are not so pretty if you strip away the mask and the underlying emotions.
Mm.
Oh, highly sensitive people. Interesting. I've been called a lot of things. Not highly sensitive. There you go.
Well, I think we're learning that you are. And you know what you're talking about, it takes courage. It takes real courage to do this inner work. And there's no substitute. Now, however you come to it, like you said, whatever program you take, whoever you decide to work with, it doesn't matter. There's no getting away from the fact that you have to start looking inside yourself. Mm. It is the only way. And as painful as you think it might be, it's certainly not as painful as not doing it, you know. And although it's like you have to go through those painful emotions to be able to come out the other side. Denying them won't work, numbing them won't work, pretending they're not there, trying to be positive. You know, it's not about thinking positive all the time. It's not about saying, I mustn't feel angry or I mustn't feel sad or, you know, any of those things, because you can't deny what you're feeling. If I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling angry. So let me examine that. Where is that coming from? What does it mean? And when you're willing to do that, you'll move through it and come out the other side of it.
Oh, that's beautiful. Linda, if there are people out there who really gel with what you're saying and want to do more work with you, how do they go about it?
Well, I would say the best thing, and if you want to find out if you're highly sensitive or not, I have a questionnaire that you can do. If you want to email me, just send me an email. You don't have to sign up for anything. So linda@lindabins.com, and just put highly sensitive or just ask for a highly sensitive session. And then what we can do is I'll send you the questionnaire, and then we can have a call and I'll review it with you, just so that you understand these are your areas of sensitivity. This is what it means for you. And here's how you could go about helping yourself. So I think that's the best way forward. Just linda@lindabins.com. And I'd be very happy to help anybody who's interested. And
you know exactly that I'm going to send you an email.
Okay, yeah, I look forward to it.
I need to explore that more.
Yes.
Because it is such an intriguing new insight I've developed here today. And this is the journey, guys. I mean, this is, yes. If you ask me, why the hell is he doing another interview? Why? I mean, how many more people can you interview? And I must say, every single interview I do, I learn something about myself, about the world around me. It is the most beautiful journey I could have ever gone on. And I can't see myself stopping in a hurry. I think I will be doing interviews until I'm old and gray, because it's such a cool thing. I know, it's so beautiful. And talking to you, Linda, talking to people who are out there who have developed that insight. Because you guys, all of you have got problems. Every single listener, every single life coach, every single one who gets in touch with me. Every single one I meet on this earth, on this earth. But it is, some of us have gone that step further, that we recognize there is something wrong with us, and let's actually explore that, and let's do the hard work. And then you come out a very different person at the other end. And then some of us who are at that level say, actually, let's share that. Yeah. That's what you hear in these interviews. So it's brilliant. Yes. Linda, it has been such a fantastic interview. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, for showing us that type of the person who is, I mean, if I would have listened just to the tone of your voice, just had quickly listened into this interview, and you would have told me it's about highly sensitive people, I would have thought, yeah. Just listen to her. Highly sensitive, my bottom. And here we are, two highly sensitive people actually talking animated and etc. So your prejudice of the sensitivity and the I don't know, whatever comes to your mind, well, you quickly have to relook at that when you listen to this interview. So those of you out there who feel very much that we hit the nail on the head, get in touch with Linda and see if there's not some work that you can do to allow you to move forward in certain areas of your life and live the life that you really want to do. Because it's just waiting for you. You just need to figure out how to get there. And I think Linda might very well be the right person to be of assistance to you there.
Thank you, Stefan, and thank you for the work you're doing. It is so needed, and thank you for having the courage to do it as a highly sensitive person.
Well, true. Hey, guys, thank you so much, Linda. Thank you very much again to you. I wish you all a fantastic, fantastic time. Look after yourself.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.